specifically about RIM, Research in Motion, on the Fast Money halftime report, essentially shooting down all those rumors that perhaps Icon Enterprises would be interested in Research in Motion. What's interesting is that there had been rumors going around that Icon was interested, and then people discounted it so quickly, and here we are, the stock moves even lower because he officially discounts the rumor. So I don't know, Karen, what you think, if this was ever sort of something that you believed happened.
No, not really. I mean, on the surface, it's sort of interesting because the valuation does appear to be extremely cheap, and it is one maybe that's right. But I absolutely believe him. If he says not on his radar screen, I absolutely believe him. I don't think we'll see him surface in a big hostile way in the short term.
Right. And also, it's a difficult target. I mean, we made the point again and again that the co-CEOs own about 10%. So from Carl Icahn's standpoint, after having just gotten a drubbing at Clorox, maybe this is not a target that would be easy either.
Yeah, and I think he probably learned his lesson in Motorola, although he would probably claim otherwise. We're going to have the very over-caffeinated Colin Gillis on, aren't we?
No, we're not.
Oh, we're not? Oh,
no.
It's unfortunate, because I'm sure he could have spoken to it. I still think it trades in the high teens. I think Colin does as well.
You're speaking for Colin.
Well, I mean, you know.
Yeah. All right.
Just watch
You
it.
could probably say it a little more emphatically.
Yeah, no doubt.
In a caffeinated sort of way. Anyway,
extraordinarily.
next trade. Apple shares hitting a fresh all-time high in today's session. The one analyst, the aforementioned Colin Gillis,
there you go,
downgraded the tech titan to a hold, saying it's time to wait for a pullback. One of his main points was that essentially at this point, Apple needs to set new records in order to simply meet consensus. So maybe you should just wait for a pullback in the stock. We had another analyst on Squawk on the Street who raised his price target to $700, saying, you know what, you can think that makes sense, but time and time again, Apple breaks those records and sets all-time highs.
Didn't the iPhone 4 just set all kinds of records? I mean, they sold 4 million phones in the first 3 days. That's 2 times their last release. That's a major record. Now with more carriers behind this phone, I mean, I think these guys are in a position to do that. I mean, I get a tactical pullback in Apple shares, but if you're an analyst and you're looking at their ability to grow and their ability to exceed their previous guideposts, I'm not sure what they're not doing here.
I think looking positionally at Apple, I'm long Apple. I know Karen is long Apple as well. It's the hardest trade right now to stay long Apple. I spent much of today looking at Apple, looking at the macro environment, looking at a lousy tape saying, should you go out, should you hedge something up, maybe sell some Novi upside calls or buy some puts underneath the market. But the price action, it just doesn't suggest it. And fundamentally, I still think tomorrow you're going to see strength. The number that stands out, the critical metric to me, is iPads. How many iPads did they sell in the quarter? Goldman Sachs has them at 13 million. Think about that for 1 second. I think that's real bullish.
We won't see these iPhone numbers in this quarter. I mean, they'll hopefully give us some clarity, but that'll be a look through the next.
But at what point, from your standpoint, will the alarm bells go off on valuation when it comes to Apple?
Well, we did sell some upside calls today.
So they're sort of going off right now.
They're going off a little bit. I mean, we have to trim. It's not, if it was at 340, it can't be all that appreciation. The risk reward has changed dramatically from at 425.
Also, I mean, when you look at the disaster that RIM had last week with their service outages, I mean, that only supports the fact when people are at least comparable buyers. I mean, I get the fact that Apple has limitations to how far they can grow globally when the price point is very difficult for some people. But from a competitive perspective, I mean, what happened with RIM last week only makes the Apple story that much more compelling. And I think as the carriers line up to offer that, BlackBerry users are switching. I know guys already switched, so it's...
I'm a big fan.
Well, I mean, the A5 chip was a real draw for...
You know the way I feel about that A5 chip. When we tore that phone apart, and it was, boom, there it was, A5. Remember?
Yeah, I remember very clearly. We got to move on to our next trade. Your hedge fund manager, Jim Kano, sending shares of GameStop into a downward spiral today after calling the company a value trap. Now, Brian Kelly, we've talked about GameStop in the past, in general, we meaning just the fast money entity, as being sort of the next Barnes & Noble.
Or even Blockbuster. Yeah, I mean, anybody who thinks you're going to get revenue growth out of renting used games, to me, there's much better investments out there. But in GameStop in particular, look at what's happened. This stock is up 42% off the August lows. It had one of the highest short interests out there. 27% of the stock is short. So you had this big short covering rally here. And I think, Chanos is right. It looks compelling, 8 times earning. But where is the growth? There really isn't any.
All right. Totally agree. And it was spun out of Barnes & Noble.
Really?
Yeah,
Do you
so
think
the
they're going to
Apple
spin out the textbook business also?
Right.
In terms
now
of
that
a
it's worth-
successful spin.
When you go to get your DS games, that's where you go to GameStop, right?
Right,
Like
and I
Mario
traded
Kart.
the old games to get new ones.
Sure you do. Way,
But that's,
way to
no,
go.
but that's part of the draw for GameStop. In all seriousness,
Yes.
kids can go in and trade their games and get new ones. That's I mean,
Just
I
said that. I'm not even kidding around. That's
I
what
mean,
you-
I don't personally. That's what I was referring to.
Oh,
as a
you
joke.
do. Come
And
on.
you could also
come on.
buy your kid an iPad, and they could play all the games they want on the iPad and take it wherever they want to go.
Right.
Mel is a gamer, folks. Putting it out there now.